That's my privacy. I have, that's my choice.
You're not allowed to record.
I can't for myself.
Oh.
Okay.
You can do it. Just voice recording.
Okay, so I just got here. Well, I didn't just get here. I got here at around 7 p.m. today. It's 10 o'clock. This is day one. We haven't. There's no medications today. I'm getting. I assume it's just fluids through the Clinton catheter. And so tomorrow is when we will start the immunosuppressant, the first one called ATG. That would be, I think, thymoglobulin or something. We'll see. But just a normal admission process, vitals, height and weight, admissions questions, stuff like that. So day one out of who knows how long, but this is day minus 13. So in 13 days, the official transplant will actually start. Definitely nervous. So my family, they left about half an hour ago. It's actually 10:40 p.m. So here's a bit of history. I was diagnosed with sickle cell at birth, but I didn't really get sick very often during my childhood. I'll be admitted to the hospital maybe once every 2 to 5 years. So I wasn't very sick as a child, but then right around the time I graduated high school is when I started getting sick a lot more often. So it started every couple of months. It was a very sudden change. Every couple of months, I was getting sick and going to the hospital, and they were pretty severe. But the only symptoms, the only manifestation of sickle cell I've ever had was pain crises. I never really had any other, and pneumonia. Pneumonia I got a few times as a child. I actually got that frequently. But I haven't gotten pneumonia in a very long time. Mostly just pain crises, but every 2 months. Then, about 2013, I realized that it correlated with menstruation. So almost every time I was in the hospital, it was around the time that I was menstruating or had just finished a period. So I realized that was probably the cause, and so I started birth control, and I decided to skip the breaks and not have a period anymore. Well, that made a huge difference. I went from getting sick every 2 months to only getting sick about once or twice a year. It was not a coincidence. It was a very sudden turnaround, obviously for the better. That lasted a couple of years. And then, I guess more like maybe 3 to 4 years, and then I started getting sick a little bit more often, not every couple of months, not nearly as bad as before, but around 2017, I started getting sick more often, about every few months. This was after a 1.5-year period without ever going to the hospital. That was the longest since I was a child that I've not been to the hospital. And then after that, I started getting sick a little bit more often again, every few months. But only 3 or 4 times a year. It's still not bad compared to, every 2 months. So it was not bad. So that's pretty much still how it's going. Every few months I get sick. It's still very unpredictable. That's pretty much the history of that. Now, what made me decide that I want a bone marrow transplant if I'm not that sick? Well, I had a boyfriend. This was this year. Actually, no, I met him last year. Last year, um, about a year ago, and a few months into the relationship, my original plan was, I was thinking of a bone marrow transplant. I went to the seminar and was introduced to the idea, and before that, I didn't know it was so frequently done on adults. But then I went to the seminar and realized that they do it on adults, and I met a couple of adults who had gone through the procedure and were cured. And that's what introduced me to the idea of a bone marrow transplant. So after that, their suggestion was wait until you finish school. And I was still in school. I'm still in school for nursing, and so I decided, okay, I'll finish school first. This is a possibility, but I want to finish school first, if that's what I should do. So that was my plan. But then I met this man. He didn't like the idea of me waiting to finish school, and by then I would be about 30. I'm 28 now. I was 27 at the time. And so I felt kind of pressured, but I found myself going to telling my doctor that I'm considering the transplant. I have Kaiser insurance, so I was seeing Dr. at Kaiser, and he referred me to a transplant physician with Kaiser. So he's the one that started the whole process. His name is Dr. Jerry Chang. I saw him on Sunset in LA at the Kaiser Sunset. I live in a suburb of LA. It's about half an hour from LA at best without traffic. So I drove about an hour to see Dr. Chang, and he started the process. So then I went to see a nurse coordinator with Kaiser as well, and she's a coordinator on the Kaiser side for the transplant. And from there, I went to City of Hope to see Dr. Rosenthal for the first time, Dr. Joseph Rosenthal. I also met him at that seminar that I mentioned before. He was the one doing the presentation. That was the first time that I had met him. I ended up seeing him, I don't remember when exactly. I'm not the best at speaking, and I'm a bit camera shy. So I saw Dr. Rosenthal along with several different nurses, the coordinator on the City of Hope side. Now, City of Hope is in Duarte, California. That is northeast of LA. It's east of Pasadena, about half an hour from my house. It's also where I work, so it was very close to my workplace. It's actually literally maybe a mile or two from my workplace. I work as a CNA in a nursing home, or I did before taking medical leave. I worked there since October, so it was definitely after I started that job. Probably early this year is when I saw him. So the nurse coordinator, her name is Cheryl. I also met the nurse coordinator for research coordinator. She's also an RN, and she is responsible for overseeing research studies. I did end up signing up, volunteering for a research study around that time. That study was in April. And that was to test a medication that triggers the bone marrow to produce stem cells, I believe. Stem cells. That study went well. I didn't have any serious effects from that. I did get paid a decent amount of money for that study. That was also done in City of Hope. It was about a week long. I believe I also met someone else there, but at the first meeting with Dr. Rosenthal, I know there were three ladies there. I don't remember who the third lady was. I just remember, Cheryl and Teresa. So that was the first meeting with Dr. Rosenthal, and then that was the official. So that was to get the approval for the transplant. So that was what the official kickstarter for this process. And so, they did the HLA typing, to test family members. I think that was before the first meeting with Dr. Rosenthal. They tested my family members and of course myself. And my family members were most of them were half matches. So, and then a few were like 3 out of 8. My sisters were 5 out of 8, and my parents were 3. I also have a half brother on my dad's side. I don't remember what how much. I don't remember his match ratio, but